Hey everyone, Brendan Prout coming to you from worshipteamcoach.com. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your song roster. I've visited a lot of churches that were very ambitious in how many songs they had on the roster. And what I'm not talking about is how many songs you have in your Planning Center database. I've seen churches that have had over 300 songs in their database. And if you're a big church that's got multiple venues and multiple teams, and you keep all of your songs in there from children's ministry, student ministry, men's ministry, women's ministry, and all the different services that you might be doing in different locations, it makes sense to have all these songs as available resources. What I'm talking about is how many songs you have in your actual active roster with your team at any given point in time and limiting that. We have the tendency as musicians to get bored with songs really quick. And the fact is we get bored with songs a lot faster than our church. As a matter of fact, we're probably ready to move on from a song way before our church is. They might be just starting to get a song. Okay, I'm Joe church member and I've heard the song twice now, maybe 3 times, and now I'm just starting to get it. It's starting to hit my heart. I'm starting to be able to sing out with it really passionately. And that, by that point in time, the reality is, as a musician, I've probably practiced it 100 times. I've probably played it with our worship team 20 or 30 times in rehearsals and sound checks and in services. And I might be over it. I might be ready to move on. But for the sake of my church, for the sake of those who I'm serving, I need to exercise some discretion and some restraint and some love in how I approach how many songs we are doing. Again, as a musician, I might be ready to throw on new songs every single week because, man, I heard that new Hillsong album and there's a song on there that I'm ready to throw into the mix right now. And then the same week I heard the new Bethel album and oh boy, there's 3 songs on there I'm ready to throw on. And if we don't exercise restraint, what we can do is we can set our team and our church up for failure by throwing too many new songs at them. So here's why we want to limit our song roster. It builds confidence. Limiting our song roster to a small, manageable number builds confidence in our teams. If my team sees that we're doing some of the songs repeated across multiple weeks, that there's a flow where, yeah, we're doing this song this week, and then we're doing this song again the next week, and guess what? It's showing up again the following week in the rotation. That's giving my team members the opportunity to practice it multiple times, both individually, to rehearse it relationally with the team multiple times over multiple weeks, and build confidence so that when they get to that 3rd, that 4th week, they know it, man. It's not just in their heads. We're not fright reading off of the page. We're taking it off the page and we're putting it in our hearts and giving us the opportunity to focus less on what I'm doing as an individual musician and focus in on what is the team doing and how is what I'm doing serving the team. And now as a team, we're gelling, we're grooving. And as Norm Stockton says, it's everybody's responsibility to groove. So we got to groove together because if we're confident, guess what? Our church is going to get to be confident too. If we're not confident on the stage in what we're doing, our church is not going to be confident in what they're doing from the pews or from the seats or from the beach or wherever it is you're worshiping. We repeat a limited number of songs so that our band, our worship team gets confident. That's not just the folks who are on the stage. That's the folks who are serving by running visual media, the folks who are running the sound, folks who might be running lighting and other cues. They need to know this is how the song goes. The folks who are serving the technical side need to know the cues. They need to know the roadmap of the songs, and they need to be confident in what they're doing just as well as the folks who are leading from the platform. We owe them the opportunity to get familiar with the songs. And when we give them that opportunity, they will get confident. And when they are confident, the church can get confident. And by the way, repetition is how we are programmed to learn. It's how we learn as little kids. It's how we learn as adults. Repetition is how we're programmed to learn. It's how God wired us. By repeating things over and over again, whether it was our ABCs as little kids, our multiplication tables in junior high or whenever, memorizing scripture takes repetition. So by limiting our roster, we also build confidence in our church members because they hear the same songs repeated. We don't throw too many new songs into their vocabulary at once because it's overwhelming and we lose them. We leave them behind, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to be effective doorkeepers and ushers in the house of God, right? So when we come together, we want them to be able to sing, not because, oh, I like this song, but we want them to be able to sing because I know the song and I can translate it from my head to my heart and sing out to the Lord. So we serve them by limiting that number. Now, what does that mean, limiting the number? For some churches, that might mean you only have 15 songs in the roster in a 3-month period of time. Some churches might be able to do 30 or 40 in the roster over a period of time. It totally depends on the makeup of your church, but you need to be in agreement together as a band, and this is something you can discuss as a worship ministry team. How many songs is attainable? How many songs can I know and do really well at any given point in time? Talk about it with your band. I encourage you to have the discussion with your worship ministry team. Talk about it. How many songs can you do and do really well? What is a good level of expectation? Hey, here's these 15 songs. We should be able to know them at the drop of a hat. We should be able to do them at the drop of a hat and just be able to roll with it and be confident in these songs. And then you can have the other newer songs that they're filtering in. They're not quite into your main wheelhouse, but you can have multiple levels, but limit it. For a typical church, maybe 20 is a good number. And that does include your hymns. You got to have a blend. What are the current songs you're doing? What are the old standards that we should be able to know at the drop of a hat? So maybe for your church, How Great Is Our God is a brand new song and you're just learning it. But guess what? It's only 4 chords. It repeats through the whole song. You should be able to know it musically pretty fast, and then that just becomes part of your regular worship vocabulary, and I wouldn't consider it part of the normal roster. Other songs kind of fall into that category as well, and you can decide what that means for your church. For the average church, though, I'd say maybe 15 contemporary songs, maybe 15 traditional songs, and between that, you've got 30 songs. That's a really strong roster. And don't alter it too much. Don't go 3 weeks and say, all right, well, that was the 30 songs we were going to do for these 3 weeks, and now change them all. For your worship ministry team, maybe 90 days, a quarter of the year is a good length of time to agree to a roster, and you're going to stick to that roster, and you're not going to stray from it. Maybe 6 months is a reasonable amount of time to say, hey, here are the songs that we're expected to know over these 6 months, and we're not going to stray too far. Now, of course, God says to sing a new song to him. So with a rhythm that makes sense for your church, you're going to want to add new songs. Maybe it's 1 new song a month. Maybe, if you're really ambitious, it's 1 new song a week. I would slow that down. Remember, as musicians, we're ready to move on to music way before our churches. So let's, for the sake of loving our churches and serving them, slow down on the new songs, do it in a rhythm and a manner that makes sense to our church so that they can get confident in what we're doing. They get confident in our leadership, and most of all, they get confident in singing out their praises to the God of the universe. And that's the goal, isn't it, when we come together, that we focus on him. We diminish, he increases, and if by exercising skill and discretion and wisdom in how we limit our song roster, that can make it more effective, that's what we ought to do. God bless you. Thank you for your service to the Lord and to his church.